For decades, the Australian property market operated on an unspoken rule: you don't touch investor tax perks. That ended with the 2026 budget. The government is targeting the two most popular tax strategies for property investors: negative gearing and the 50% capital gains tax discount. Starting in May 2026, negative gearing is restricted exclusively to new builds. If you buy an established home, you can no longer use those rental losses to shrink the tax you pay on your salary. Treasury is banking on this to level the playing field for first home buyers. But to understand the true impact of this shift, we have to track the money. Who exactly is paying the price for these changes, and where are those billions of dollars actually going? The second major shift arrives in July 2027. The government is scrapping the flat 50% capital gains tax discount and replacing it with two things: a new 30% minimum tax rate and a system called cost-based indexation. Instead of having a property's total increase, the tax office strips away inflation to isolate your real capital gain. The 30% minimum tax applies directly here. Low-growth returns might see lower bills, but high-growth properties will face dramatically higher taxes. This is official legislated policy. The budget papers explicitly outline the limit on negative gearing to new builds, alongside the replacement of the capital gains tax discount with indexation and the minimum tax. Treasury expects these reforms to raise $3.6 billion over the forward estimates. That revenue creates the primary war chest funding the next major phase of this budget. Billions extracted from property investors are being redirected into the hip pockets of the working class. The relief starts at the petrol pump. The government has slashed the fuel excise by 60.9%, dropping the cost of petrol and diesel by 32 cents a liter for the next 3 months. Then comes the structural relief arriving in the 2027-28 income year. Workers will get a new $250 Working Australians tax offset, while the lowest tax bracket drops from 16% down to 14%. Returning this cash to the workforce is a massive undertaking. The budget ledgers show these tax offsets draining over $6 billion from revenue projections across the 2028 to 2030 period. But while cheaper fuel and future tax offsets provide passive relief, the most active win for taxpayers hits next year. For the 2026-27 income year, the government is rolling out a $1,000 instant tax deduction. The mechanics are simple. Any worker can wipe a flat $1,000 straight off their taxable income, and you don't need to provide a single receipt to prove it. While your work-related expenses are covered by that automatic $1,000, you are still allowed to manually itemize and claim non-work deductions, like charitable donations or union fees, directly on top of it. Eliminating the administrative headache of tracking tiny expenses is estimated to save the economy $380 million in compliance costs every single year. This receipt-free deduction is formally locked into the budget papers, set to streamline tax time for an estimated 6.2 million workers. For the everyday Australian, this policy effectively destroys the dreaded shoebox of faded receipts, making it the primary benefit for the working class in this package. If the government is absorbing billions in tax cuts, handing out fuel relief, and offering free $1,000 tax passes, we have to ask how the national checkbook is actually being balanced. The answer lies on the other side of the ledger, within the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Behind the scenes, Treasury is capping the growth rate of the NDIS. Over the next 5 years, they are pulling a staggering $23.9 billion out of the scheme's forward estimates. This chart compares those figures to put the scale in perspective. The $380 million saved from that tax compliance cut is barely a fraction of the $23.9 billion removed from NDIS projections. These are strict official reductions detailed in Treasury's projections. While the move is politically contentious, the reality is grounded in these specific MYEFO projection reductions. The hip pocket ledger represents a significant structural trade-off. Australians get relief at the pump and a simpler tax return, but it is bankrolled by the overhaul of property tax settings and billions removed from disability scheme projections.